always makes me proud to hear our anthem. We play it, especially hearing in the voice of the one and only Aretha Franklin. The anthem that was established as our anthem by the NAACP, written by James Weldon Johnson and J. Rosamond Johnson, his brother. Joining us now, the president of the oldest and the boldest, the most cussed and most discussed civil rights organization in history, the NAACP. Derrick Johnson is with us as always. Good morning, Derrick. How are you, man?
Good morning. Happy New Year. How you doing?
Just fine. Derrick, I want to do this because we didn't do it last week before we get into our regular conversation. Our brother, Don Rojas, is in the fight for his life, former communications director for the NAACP. We're asking people to go to his GoFundMe and help to make a contribution for his medical expenses. He needs that help. Derrick, would you say a word about Don and why this is the thing to do?
You know, Don Rojas is one of the individuals who were very involved with the Black Liberation Movement, Black Power Movement in the early 70s throughout. He was the kind of strategic mind that was behind the scenes and provided the narrative and the communication strategy for many individuals from Chavis on down the line. It's funny, I met Don when he came to NAACP in the midst of us working around the Ayers case in Mississippi, where they were trying to merge and close publicly funded schools, not only in the state of Mississippi, but the case would have impacted public HBCUs in 14 states. And when I met Don, he immediately took on the cause to support our communication needs. And later, he worked for Oxfam, Free Speech TV. And I will encourage, everyone to go to the GoFundMe page and support him. He is one of the early pioneers in communication for activism, and for most people in the struggle, we moved around a lot and didn't have the security of the institution to provide insurance, and he's found himself in that space where he's fought for our community. Now we need to help him in his fight for his life.
Indeed, folks, go to GoFundMe, help Don Rojas in the fight for his life. Please, ma'am, please, sir, he needs our support, our brother and comrade. We appreciate that. And, of course, one of the great staffers at the NAACP under Dr. Chavis when he was president, Maurice Bishop's communications director, executive director of Free Speech TV, which many of us watch and were a part of. Okay, Derrick Johnson, president of the NAACP. Derrick, Trump's speech last night was just pretty doggone racist, wasn't it?
It was not only beneath the dignity of the White House, but it was yet another example that the racial hatred and intolerance is truly germinating from the White House. Mm-hmm. It was nonsensical. It was supporting unneeded policy. Can you imagine what $5 billion could do to help improve the delivery of quality public education for this nation, to ensure that our elderly receive proper meals every day, to support early child care centers across the country, to help undergird much-needed medical support for the underdeserved. I mean, this guy is beyond. Sometimes I get to use words to describe him, and now I just pause there because there are no words to describe him.
Yeah,
it has nothing to do with the office of the presidency or the care and concern of the American citizens. It's all about his ego. And now 800,000 federal employees are in the middle of a nonsensical proposition around building a wall that's not needed and won't do what he alleged it would do.
Derrick, do we know what percentage, any idea what percentage of federal employees are African American?
But I don't know the percentage, and we probably forget that. I do know government is the number one employer of African Americans, and federal government is among the top of all government that employ African Americans.
Right.
Because of A. Philip Randolph.
Yeah.
And what he did in 1941 to force Roosevelt and the federal government to adopt an executive order, making it possible not only for us to serve in the military, but to desegregate all of federal government. It became the way for African Americans to climb out of the cycle of poverty and get stable employment. And we have used the federal government specifically as that mechanism to provide for our community and feed our families. So it's having a devastating impact on our community, especially when Friday comes and there will be no paycheck in the mail. That's going to have a devastating effect across the board. So we should start talking to companies, and we will, to provide some level of support and forgiveness for those workers so they're not at risk of losing homes or cars. But more importantly, we need to figure out that those families are cared for, because no matter what happens, people got to eat every day.
Well, but the reason I asked that too, we know that a number of people in the federal workforce, many in Washington D.C., are African American, many career civil servants. What I think we need to acknowledge, and I think you and I know this, but we need to get it on the record. Trump and his followers don't like the federal government anyway, Derrick. They see the federal government as the source of a lot of help and support for African Americans, enforcement of civil rights laws, enforcement of voting rights laws. They are tenthers. They believe in the states, not the federal government. And furthermore, they also know that there are a number of African Americans employed by the federal government. So he can talk about the wall all he wants to, but I believe in the back of their minds, they also have a problem with the federal government and don't mind it being shut down for the reasons I just stated.
Well, I always go back, follow the money, right? The policy debate in this country for the last several centuries, since we have been a nation, has been around who gets taxed, who's not taxed, and how those tax dollars are spent. And shrinking the federal government gives justification for cutting tax for the super wealthy or not taxing the super wealthy. And that's been the fight.
Yeah.
Race has been a tool used in that fight. And we must recognize when we're being used in the middle of a tax fight, because the issue with Trump is nonsensical, but there are a set of individuals who see this as an opportunity to advance arguments that we need to shrink government anyway, that if we can go 19 days without a substantial portion of the government functioning, why do we need it anyway? We need to shrink it. I think it was one of the political strategists in the late 90s that his goal was to shrink government so small you can soak it in a bathtub.
Yeah.
And so as we're looking at this current fight, there is a larger conversation that has been going on for a while now about the role and size of government, because there are many who want to shrink it, so they're not providing quality education for all children. They want to abolish public education, that we're not making sure that our elderly are cared for. They want to do away with the Social Security program altogether, that we're not providing access to health care. Not only do they not want a universal health care system, they want to get rid of Medicaid and Medicare. So these are long-standing arguments in fight, and for some it started with the John Birch Society. For others, it started before that.
Yeah. It's been going on for some time. Meanwhile, as you said, there are people who are suffering because the federal government is closed.
And the lack of empathy around that conversation is what's most appalling.
Yeah, you're right.
We're not talking about what others call deadbeats. We're talking about people who work hard every day to make this nation work and who actually protect our borders. How can you require TSA workers to go to work every day to protect our entries of our ports of entry and airlines, and yet you don't pay them and over a fight around protecting our borders?
Yeah.
It's nonsensical, to say the least.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Derrick Johnson with us, folks, 10 minutes before the hour. A victory in the Centoya Brown case, Derrick.
It's a victory. It is a sad case at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
How we treat our young people when they are actually victims is unfortunate.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a young lady who, from all accounts, was lured into a sex trafficking ring, and yet she was treated like the criminal when she tried to defend herself.
Right.
There's something wrong with that type of system, and district attorneys that are so dogmatic around winning certain type of cases that they lack the compassion, the understanding, and the moral compass to adjust their approach to ensure that our young people, but more importantly, victims in general, are heard and protected, even when they are in the midst of a complicated situation. So we are happy for a young lady to finally be able to get out in August, but we are saddened by the fact that we have so many other individuals who are serving time. But even with her, when she's out, she still got to serve probation for 10 years. And she figured out how to start over her life.
Yeah.
At 30 years old, after serving, just early 30s, after serving 15 years in jail, it is a sad commentary of where we are as a nation. And, the book is called It Is Worse Than Slavery.
Also, is it true that the NAACP is calling on artists to not perform in the Super Bowl?
But we're not calling for that, but we're commending the artists who are making that decision.
Okay, good enough.
Using one's platform for social good is a well-honored tradition in the civil rights movement. And anytime we find actors and athletes and other entertainers who are willing to offer their platform to advance the cause of social justice, we're going to commend them. And so we are commending all of those artists who've decided that they're not going to participate in this Super Bowl as a result of this league treating African-American players in a way in which they're trying to suffocate their voice.
Yeah, very important. Also, an announcement, the NAACP Image Awards have been scheduled, correct?
March 30th, Los Angeles, California, at the Dolby Theater. We'll be aired live on TV One. Mark, I hope you're going to come out and join us. It is our 50th anniversary of the Image Awards, a show that was started for NAACP to recognize and commend individuals who project positive images of our recognition of the 400th year of the transatlantic slave trade.
That's right.
All of these things are coming together. We're asking people, if you can't join us in L.A., make sure you tune in to TV One and celebrate 50 years of promoting positive images in the entertainment industry.
Amen. And folks, also, if you shop at Amazon Smile, Amazon will make a donation to the NAACP. I want people to keep that in mind as well. Support this great organization and all of the work it has been doing. Also, one other thing, there's a case, a census case, right? That's still in court. I believe a judge has delayed litigation that the NAACP has refused to delay litigation that the NAACP brought regarding the census, right?
Absolutely. So For us to understand, being civically engaged is more than just voting, and the census is foundational to much of this conversation. This administration has decided to pursue a course to underfund the census count, not placing enough enumerators, counters into the field to ensure accurate count. Unfortunately, we see in Prince George's County, a county that has the highest per capita income of African Americans of any county in the country, the headquarters of the Census Bureau, they have had a perpetual undercount. If you can't count people in your own backyard who happen to be African Americans, how can we rely on your count anywhere?
Right.
Especially if you don't put enough people out in the field. So we filed a lawsuit
Yes, sir.
on behalf of Prince George's County to ensure an accurate count. But the impact of that lawsuit will have national impact. So we look forward to that case. People ask, what is the NAACP doing? Check out our website. We're filing lawsuits. We are protesting in the street. We're advocating for quality policy. We're promoting positive images. And we've been the voice for the voiceless. Join us, support us. We need you in this 110th year of our existence.
Folks, NAACP, the oldest, boldest, most discussed, most cussed civil rights organization, NAACP.org. The president, Derrick Johnson. Derrick, as always, my brother. Thank you, man.
Thank you. Have a good morning.
All right, you do as well. Enjoy your day. Folks, we'll be back. This is MIP.